All right, welcome back to Make It Custom, everybody. I'm Carl Fisher, and in this part 2 episode of Make It Customs, I'm not sure what we're gonna call this, firewall building extravaganza, we are making ourselves a tool that allows us to pound a massive bead into a firewall, and we are troubleshooting and making our own tool to do this. And stick around, it's gonna be a lot of fun. I will, spoiler alert, break some stuff in this video. So it's gonna be fun. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Check us out on Patreon or japhandskustoms.com if you want merch and all the goodies. We got DXF files, things like that on the site. They're for free if you go to Patreon. Anyway, we'll catch you over there. Let's get into the video. All right, here we go. We're gonna try and figure this out. So the whole objective of this video, I guess you'll have seen whether it worked or not because we're gonna film the beginner after all this. I don't know if I'm gonna have egg on my face yet or not, but I would really like to put some very deep beads in this firewall, the type of beads that you cannot get with a bead roller, stuff that you can only really do with stamping or with a pull max. If you don't know what a pull max is, take a quick look. What it basically is a fixed stroke reciprocating machine. And what that means is that a pull max they almost look like gigantic bead rollers, right? They're just like this big, massive frame like this. Tooling goes into the mouth of them, and basically you have all kinds of tooling that you can put in there, and you can adjust how much the stroke is, and it's fixed, meaning it doesn't have a spring. Right? So like power hammers, they have springs, but you can fix the stroke and press in a perfect bead. And how do you do that in conjunction with hammer forming, which is what we're trying to do? So we're just gonna be using extremely simple tools. I love solving problems that would be otherwise very expensive processes with very simple tools. So that's what we're doing today. We're trying to make ourselves a tool that will replace or do the same thing as one of those massive reciprocating machines and hammer forming. This is the same way that they do it in a pull max, okay? So we're basically taking two pieces of MDF. If you watched the last video, part 1, we're squishing that material, we're holding it flat, and that's very crucial because you're forcing the panel to stay flat. And then you're doing certain things to it that give the metal no choice but to form into whatever beads we're trying to create or whatever radiuses and flanges that we're trying to do. We've already done the radiuses and flanges, now it's time for the beads. So in part 1, we did actually go over and map out a cool bead that we're gonna run in this firewall. And I know this looks like a crazy mess, but basically it's this top bead, these two beads, this horizontal one, and then these couple of extra lines that come down here. So it's like a very cool looking and intricate bead form that absolutely cannot be made with a bead roller. You cannot do this with a bead roller. And if you have a way, put it in the comments because I have no idea how that can be done. Especially the size of bead that we're doing. We're trying to go for a full 1-inch bead, 1 inch wide, which means an incredible amount of stretch. So if you were doing this in a panel that wasn't in a hammer form and you're trying to bead roll that, you would be collecting the material and basically distorting the panel. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You've seen pre-stretch before, and yes, you can pre-stretch that and control distortion. Absolutely, it would take a very long time, and you would probably struggle very much. So I promise this is a better way, or at least that's my personal opinion. So the first thing we're going to do to try and get this going is I'm just going to pull all these screws out of here because we can't have that, and then we're going to sandwich. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually screw the two pieces together and lay out our beads because we're going to have to go through both. We're going to have the beads cut out of our hammer form in both pieces. So we're just gonna put that piece of metal away for now. And we're gonna line up our hammer form again. We're gonna try and get a couple of these screws to help locate us. So I'm just gonna run a couple of these screws through. And now we should hopefully be able to find our hole. I got it, buddy. You don't have to worry about that. Okay, there, we found one there. And I think we found the other one there. Okay. All right, so we will lay this out as close as we can get it here. How are we gonna do this? I guess we gotta find center of all of these so that we make sure that we pinpoint our drill. Basically, to cut this all out, you know, if you've got routers, you can use whatever you want. I don't have a ton of woodworking equipment, so I'm gonna be utilizing a skill saw. This right here. I'm gonna be using a drill to drill 1-inch holes where all the ends of our beads are. And then I'm gonna basically cut up to them. And a couple of these things would be really great with a jigsaw. I'm out of jigsaw blades. Elio reminded me to go buy some. I didn't do it because, you know, my brain doesn't work that well sometimes. And we're just gonna use a reciprocating saw, the skill saw, and a drill to try and get all these cut out of there. Probably be able to find center with these guys, maybe. Would that be the easiest way? Just mark the 3 sides? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'll be able to do that. So glad we made those marks on those. So handy. I'm only going to do half of it so that I can just flip it over to get the mirror image. If you haven't seen these before, well, you probably saw them on the last video if you are following along, this being part 2. These are teardrop radius gauges. And Elio and I are quite proud of these because everybody we've talked to is like, yeah, I've never seen anything like that. And maybe you guys haven't either, but we got tired of finding round things in the shop to use for layout when we are bead rolling or doing anything. And not just only bead rolling, but a time like this. You know, we've marked 3 sides, you know, that 90 degrees from each other. And we've got all these different size radiuses. And we found them super, super handy. And so we made them cheap on the website. They're still on sale. I've extended the sale because, I don't know, people like them and I just haven't had the heart to cancel the sale yet. So if you want a set, go on japhandskustoms.com, grab them, tell your friends to stop using rolls of tape and grinding discs when you're bead rolling.
I'm going to be making bigger ones. So.
Yeah, actually, that's some of the feedback that we got from you guys is that, a bunch of them went out the door, and a few people were like, wow, these are great. I could use a larger set. So I think that's something after Elio and I get back from our trip, which probably is around now, thinking to how these videos are going to come out. Elio and I are going across the United States in the 51 Merc, and yeah, when we get back, we'll make a set of these. Or maybe we'll make them on the road, I don't know. We're gonna have a lot of time on our hands, so. Let me get, I guess I don't really need a ruler, I could just do it like this. All right. So, just gonna center punch these, and we'll flip it over, get the other side. Now I gotta say, you know, this drill press is kind of sweet because if you haven't seen it before, you just adjust your speed on the fly. And this is what saves drill bits. You've heard me talk about it a million times before, and I'm not like trying to be a broken record, but think about, everybody loved this analogy last time I said it. So if you missed it, this is a good way to think about your drill bits. Think about a merry-go-round, okay? You stand in the center of a merry-go-round and you're going very slow. You're on the outside and you're going really, really fast. So the larger your drill bit, like at the same speed, say you're at 1,000 RPM, with a small drill bit or a large drill bit, they're cutting at different speeds, even though you're at the same rotation. And it's because of how large it is. When you're cutting on the outside, you're whipping. And when you're cutting with a small drill bit, you're really not. You're at the center of the merry-go-round, so to speak. So this is my new favorite drill press because it's like, I can go 140 RPM for bigger drill bits. You know, if I'm going through steel, that's probably the speed I would be choosing with a 1-inch drill bit. But if you're going through wood, you can go a little bit faster. Yeah, anyway, I just wanted to talk about cut speeds again. And sizes of drill bits. You can really just feel it, like how it's cutting, right? Yeah, it worked really good. I think I could probably go even faster. Go up to 600, see how that does. Should have worn dusters. Okay, how many of these dots actually connect? Not really a ton, so we're gonna have to get some of the angles from our template in a moment here. Okay, we did pretty good. I love this layout. I think this is gonna be like the coolest firewall ever if we don't destroy it by trying to do something new with our tool here. So what I'm gonna do now, I think, is instead of cutting these with the saw through both, or do I want to? I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet because I wanna make sure that it doesn't get hurt, like the patterns. So I might take these apart, cut one, and then draw it onto the other one? Or do we just plunge through it all and then take it apart and start cleaning up the rest? Elio and I are gonna think about it over lunch. Oh man, that was a good lunch. We figured it out. We actually figured it out before we even ate. But it was a good lunch today. Elio, how was lunch?
It was good. made some sushi.
Yeah, it was tasty. So what we're gonna do is, while it's together, I'm just gonna plunge everything with the skill saw and try and get really good on the lines. That'll help transfer to underneath. Some of these lines are so short that our skill saw won't actually be able to do them. So we'll have to try and clear out some of these areas so that we can get different saws in here. I'm gonna take my time. It's important to make this as good as you can get it, right? So we will plunge all this stuff, start cutting it, and then I'll separate them to finish it all. But it's gonna be a bunch of work, so we're probably just gonna go back to the time lapse in a minute here and get this done. Okay, well, this is working. I like the idea of the skill saw. I like the idea of using the drill press, keep everything 90. It's working out pretty well. Some things that we gotta take into account with this is what way are we hammering the bead? The bead's gonna go out on our firewall. So the back side or the underside of this hammer form is where we're actually gonna be using our tool that we haven't made yet and pushing the bead out. So right now I'm just kind of like rounding the corners, and I just noticed that I did do a bit of a bobo, to quote Half-Ass Customs, Brent, he likes to say bobo. Basically I effed up, and these two beads are not correct. And I did mark them. I noticed it when I marked it, and I kind of was like, X, don't cut this one. But my brain was like, line, plunge, and like I totally lost track of what line I was supposed to do. So this is the one I want. Even though this one looks more parallel, this one is kind of how the Zephyr is. It's got like one like that and a shorter one on a different angle. So I think there's a way, this is Elio's suggestion, as long as it's pretty close, we might be able to actually like flip the firewall and still hammer in the correct bead on the other side if we do some malarkey. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. I don't think it'd be the end of the world to hammer in both those beads. It would just bug me and probably all you guys because I just told you about it. But I'm just using whatever I can to kind of knock these corners off and just file it, make it as good as possible. And it's okay to take your time on this. Like our actual process of hammering the bead, or if you had a pull max or going into there, that's not gonna take very much time. It's always the prep. And so I just can't stress this enough. Anytime you're doing any kind of work like this, especially with cars and hammer forming and welding as well, the prep is always the larger chunk of it. I know so many people, or I see them where they, and myself included, I would just kind of like rush through and get to the process, like the welding or the hammering or whatever it is. But all those things that you did and all those steps you took up to the point of actually doing the process is probably gonna take 90% of the time, or it should, so that you know that when you do the process, it's gonna come out how you want it, because it would really suck to get there and screw it up like I was about to do. So yeah, just gonna be I'm just gonna keep working away on this, cutting the ends off and making our radiuses. I have to do that on both pieces, and then we will put this back together, sandwich our actual piece of steel in there, and then make this tool that I've been talking about. And I don't know, I'm thinking this could be one of those tools that everybody needs, because it is like, it's gonna be cheaper than a bead roller, and you're gonna be able to do some really cool beads with it that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So let's just get back into the work, get this ready to go. All right, so we are pretty much ready to make this tool. Ooh, I actually got it. I really wanted to make sure that we got this pattern in here to help everyone understand like the principle of how that tool is going to work. So, you know, and when I say principle, I sound like I think I know how it's going to work, but I really don't because I've never done it before. But I'm dumb enough to try. So, if you look back in the videos, we did one, and it was no bead roller, no problem. How to make beads without a bead roller. And this is basically a continuation of that thought. And taking from what I learned on the last one, this was years ago, I think this is going to work. So let me just finish screwing this together, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to make this. Okay, so this is all I'm going to use. And I just want to give this little disclaimer because I see a lot of people like copying our tools. And I just want you to all know that I think that's the greatest thing ever. So please copy everything you see on here and use it as much as you can. And anybody that says that you're copying stuff and taking away income from us is complete garbage. I want you to do that. And we are making these little kits, and like they're for sale for the people that just don't want to do it themselves. And we're trying to make it convenient so that maybe you will want to buy the stuff. japhandskustoms.com, you can check that out. One of our favorite recent tools, if Elio pans right over there, is this profiling machine, which you can make all kinds of dies for. We made a die to do some like grill teeth. We've made dies to do all kinds of stuff. I'm not trying to sell you guys on that, but I just want you to know there's stuff on there that you might enjoy and that could save you money depending on what you're trying to do. So what we are doing with this tool is I basically want to take an air hammer, and I want the air hammer bit. I'll probably end up cutting this off. I know I'll end up cutting this off. But that air hammer bit is going to hammer against a bit that looks like this. So this is our 1-inch piece that I plan on hammering into here. Right? So if I radius these edges to be the profile of the bead that we want, and I run this along in here, we should get our pronounced bead. I don't know if this air hammer is even powerful enough. That's why I'm doing the maximum size. If this does make it through this test and it becomes a kit, we're going to offer 1-inch, 3/4, and 1/2-inch beads for it. So I'm trying to use the maximum amount. What's the biggest, what needs the most power, and can we do it? I don't know, so we're figuring it out. So this basically is going to be our bead. And then the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have that inside this. These are pieces of DOM tubing, and this is cold rolled steel, just regular mild steel, right? Then we're going to take this cap and we're going to put it on top. So basically, we're just building this 3-piece little thing that's going to get hit with an air hammer and hammer on that. Now this lip is kind of the backstop almost. So this is our depth stop. Now if you saw the other video, what I was doing was I had just an air hammer itself with a rounded tip on it. And there was no depth stop per se, other than hitting the bottom of the trough that it was in, right? So basically, that was a problem because the air hammer is so powerful that it would pound itself deeper into wood. It would compress the wood. Or I tried putting steel there, and then you're hammering it against the steel, and now you're steel on steel, and now you're actually stretching stuff. So that's not what we want. So this basically is like a big flange that'll allow us to stop at the depth that this flange spreads the load onto our wood. And so I'm hoping that that is enough so that, like, maybe this needs to be a bit bigger. That could be one of the modifications. I don't know. So that's how it's going to work. It's going to go in here, and we're going to hammer on this and brrr, and make that bead happen. And then this was originally going to be the whole thing, and this was actually going to be welded on there as well. It is going to be welded on there, so that when we cut one of these off, it sits right inside that. But I've tried that before, and all the hammering sometimes makes this want to break, and you got two things to hold on to, and that might not be good also. So now the evolution of the design has gone to the point of this other thought. And the other thought is that maybe this slips over top of the air hammer, and maybe we clamp it on there, and then it centers the actual moving piece here. So this is still the stop, but you can hold this with your hand, and you're not going to be, you know, like nothing inside here can break and hurt you. Because I did hurt myself one time. I was doing this freehand, and I had welded an end onto an air hammer bit, which is hardened stuff, and it brittle, and basically it broke, and then it was air hammering my meat suit, right, my skin, and it ripped it and made me leak, which is not good. So that is what we're thinking. This simple arrangement, so this will still slide, right? This will be separate. You'll be able to pull this apart. But if you sat that down on here and we're air hammering, then, I don't know, hopefully it makes sense. I think the next thing I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna round this how I like it. I'll probably use the lathe and just kind of round it out a little bit, and then we'll weld this all together. We've also got a few different shims that, you know, this is just forethought. We don't know what we're doing, but what I'm thinking is that we could have extra shims on here so that each pass we could just kind of do a 16th at a time. You know, do another pass, and then, you know, do your final pass. And if this all works, like I say, we're gonna have one that's 3/4 for you and one that's 1/2 inch for you, and they'll all be able to slip inside that holder. All the lengths are designed so that you can use 1 inch thick material, or if you grab another one of these, which it'll come with, more commonly I usually use 3/4 inch MDF, but I just got a deal on the 1 inch. So, you know, you can use 2 of those, and then now you're able to do it with, you know, 3/4 inch instead. So this is the plan, and I'm just gonna get into making all these pieces now. So I'm just gonna go round this out, and we're gonna weld this all up, and we're gonna give it our, the old college try. If you like that little tool, that little radius tool, you can look for that. We made that on the channel. Okay, let's go give it a shot. Okay, so this, nothing happens to. This, we got to weld to here. Being that we are using TIG, TIG likes clean metal, means I have to clean stuff. Better get the air. Ooh, this thing sounds munchy. Munchy, munchy. Gotta red Loctite this thing. It always starts coming loose. Little spider gears in there. They don't like having too much play. There you go. Yep. That's all good. So this is it. That's gonna be our little thing there. We're gonna have to cut this down so that we have something. Okay, so with this dropped in here, now that's our air hammer bit, and now that's our bit, right? Right? Huh, hey, is that as far as it goes? Yes, okay, that's right. I made this so that this could actually slide down a bit and we can sort of move it. I'm gonna actually adjust that. Okay. We're actually pretty excited to try this. I'm stoked. If this thing works, I don't know. Is that exciting? To me, it's exciting. If it works, it could be very exciting. Okay, so da 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 da. This is like a little air regulator. So I'm kind of closing that a little bit and just going maybe a few turns out on that. We'll try that. We'll drop this guy in there like that, like that. We're going to start out with a few shims. We'll see. We'll see how, maybe we'll see how that works. See, so like there is a bit of room there. Oh, one of these shims has a burr on it. Yeah, that's not too aggressive. Okay, moment of truth. We are going to be doing this pushing out. I want the beads to go that way. So we flip it over. We're going from the back side of our form now. We want to make sure that we don't do this side because this is the bead we want, and we might have to do that flip later on. We're going to need ear plugs. Okay. Okay. We're just going to give it all the balls because I think it kind of needs it. I can tell right now, I mean, it's working, but I feel like it needs more power. I think it does need more power. So maybe this air hammer is not our, I mean, it's doing it. It is doing it, but.
Is that a short or long barrel?
This is a long barrel air hammer, but you know what? I think it needs an extra long barrel air hammer. And what I mean by long barrel is when you're talking about air hammers, this is your barrel. And the strength of air hammer is related to how large the piece of steel is that's going up and down, the hammer itself. Basically, an air hammer is super, super simple. It's a chunk of metal that goes up and then blocks that port, comes down, and just like the air makes it jump up and jump down. That's all it is. So your strokes per minute are related to that because the heavier and the bigger it is and the farther it has to travel, the slower the strokes per minute. So this one works awesome on our machine there, but like I said, this probably would have worked no problem with like a 1/2 inch or maybe even a 3/4 inch. It's definitely moving the material right away, but I can tell that it could be more powerful for this 1 inch slug. 1 inch is pretty big, right? Like that's pretty heavy duty. And we've got this massive flat spot on here that Elio wanted. And so it's kind of spreading the load a lot. So I'm actually gonna just like stop right away like we did it for 10 seconds. I'm gonna go grab my larger air hammer and we're gonna give that a shot. And I'm quite sure that that one will do it because it's violent. Okay, I've got this other air hammer here that I know is pretty hefty. I don't actually know if this is even gonna work like size-wise. Like this might be bigger than what we made. Oh! Fits. Cool. Okay, before we get too far, we're gonna have to cut ourselves a new pin, which is good because they come with a bunch. So we'll just take another one of these. We're gonna measure it out with this on there. And where's our slug? Our slug inside here. We're gonna be looking at, oh, maybe it is the right size. This would sit in too far. Or I guess this could go all the way up to that. Maybe there.
That might work.
And then this. Yeah, that actually will work. Cool. Cool. Okay. So it's good to know that this is a universal size, kind of. Okay. Okay, give this a go. That's better. Do that and that. Okay, the noisy boy. I think larger discs would be a good idea because of this area. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to traverse that. Let's see. Oh. All right, it's definitely working. One pass, we're moving material. All right, this is looking pretty good. I'm excited to pull this thing apart. We're getting there. I'm almost there. I'm almost ready to have a look at it, and then we're gonna have to do something about that bead. Okay. We are gonna have a look at what we got. Yeah. It's a bummer about that bead. I was so tempted to just run over it and be like, meh, it's fine. You know, it's just a tiny bit different than that one. I don't think anybody would ever notice. But wish me luck. What does it look like? Ooh, this side's a little bit, it's kind of wobbly, you know? You can see some of the imprints. This is unfortunate, you know? This is a little bit bumpy. I think we could smooth that out, though. I gotta figure out how. Maybe the planishing hammer. Let's pull it apart. See what we got. I think also because we have like kind of a flat spot on the die, I think that's also why we can see some texture in that bead. So in the future, we might want to just change that a little bit. But there we have it. Pretty intricate bead pattern with just an air hammer. And, you know, the panel stays relatively flat. There's a little bit of stretching in here. But, oh, did I just get it back? This thing looks dead flat. This thing looks totally flat. Look at that. I dig it. I think that's awesome. There are things that I'm going to refine on that die itself. Like I think that if we actually made it a smooth die, it would have made things way easier. I just like roughed it on the lathe. So that's one thing I'm definitely gonna change. I'm trying to make that die smoother. It'll ride smoother. If it has, you know, a true radius rather than a flat spot, I think that it would be a little bit more uniform as well. And I don't think that this piece is gonna need to be redone. I think I can absolutely refine the piece. I'll just put it back in here, refine the die, run over it again. And then for these larger, flatter areas, maybe I even have to just hand planish a little bit just to get the marks out of it. But as you can see, for a first crack, I am super, super stoked that this thing has the capability to do something like this. This is the first crack, so we can absolutely make a couple of adjustments and make it even better, which is what we're gonna do. And you'll see that in the next video. We just wrapped up this video and we talked about it and we looked at what was happening to the piece that we made. And this is wild, okay? So you know how this is a piece of DOM 1/4 inch wall? This is a piece of DOM 1/4 inch wall. That's a 1/4 inch piece of steel in between. Well, the air hammer, this is hitting against that 1/4 inch piece of steel. And then this, our bit, is getting hit from the 1/4 inch piece of steel. So you have this circle, and then this. While we were hammering, because this is a harder material, and that is a heck of an air hammer, it actually blew through the 1/4 inch piece of steel. Went right through. So our wobbly mess that we have created, partly from the die, other partly is because now we have no depth stop, right? If that is driving directly against this, which is what happened, they started to drive against each other. Like it blew through this, right through, and started to directly hit this, meaning that this was over driving too deep. Okay, so that is eliminating the depth stop flange, basically. It's not restricting the stroke anymore. You remember I was talking about fixed stroke reciprocating machines, and that's what this is trying to mimic? That took the fixed stroke out of it, right? So now it's going as deep as it can hammer. And that's why we have a little bit of a wobbly bead. Okay, so scratch what I said about using that piece. I'm not gonna use it. I'm going to make a new one in the next video, and we are gonna make this better. It might not be the next video, but we're gonna make this better. There's gotta be a way. So what I think that we'll have to do now is we might actually get this piece, oh wow. If we made this piece out of something like 4130 or S7 or some kind of alloy that can be hardened to as hard as what air hammer bits are hardened to. Because like this thing didn't see a lot. Like there's a tiny bit of mushrooming on there, but it's a cheap air hammer bit. So maybe we need to make our own air hammer bit that actually looks like this, like the whole thing or something. I don't know. Wheels are turning and we're learning. So the next time you see us crack on this on the channel, hopefully we'll have some improvements for you. Thanks a lot for watching and watching us learn. Hopefully you're learning something. Hopefully you can see a little bit more what's possible with simple tools and a little bit of forethought. Like I said, this is, you know, a win and a fail. We learned some stuff and we broke some stuff, and now we are going to hopefully refine that and I am still so confident that I'm sure we can make this tool actually work for what we're trying to do. And literally this is why I want a Pullmax, is for this. But I don't need a pull max if we can get this going, and neither do you. And the same thing with the profiling machine. That's to replace a pull max too. They're massive. They're like 10,000 pounds sometimes. So maybe we can have the capability for everybody out there eventually once we get this figured out. So thanks a lot for hanging out. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom, everybody. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications, check us out on Patreon, and if you like any of our tools, they'll be on japhandskustoms.com. We also got some merch and stuff like that. Elio and I are probably just getting back from a massive road trip. Hopefully it went well, and we'll catch you later.